Hi, Mickey.
Hey, Bob.
How you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Good. You been to any parties? Any Hollywood parties?
I was at the debate, which was star-studded, but I had to leave early. It looked like a very good party. Stevie Wonder wandered by.
Did you think up that line in advance, Mickey? Because it had an extremely clever pun in it.
It did? Oh.
Stevie Wonder wandered by?
No,
of course you mean wandered
no.
by, but you said it.
No, I'm just I'm a poet and I don't know it.
Oh, Mickey. Listen, well, I was at a party.
What party?
I had most of the Blogging Heads team, that is the Eastern Seaboard component of the team, was actually at my house on Sunday.
You didn't invite me.
That's exactly right, Mickey. And I guess it's too late to conceal that fact from you, but you will be pleased to see the cake that they presented me with at this party, and I will. It'll be a surprise for you. I won't describe it. We'll just link to it. We'll put a picture of it up and link to it on the side there. But
it's a picture of you.
It's as close as you are going to come to getting into that party. Let me just put it that way. And
I'm on the cake. Yay!
I'm not spilling any beans. You just have to click to see what's on the cake.
Probably waving a moose.
Well, now this is what people won't be able to see in the picture. So well thought out was this cake presentation that it had a layer of chocolate mousse.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the kind of staff I have.
And you have like 200 employees now?
There were about 180 people in my living room. Yeah. It was, global media juggernauts don't happen on the backs of only 4 or 5 slaves. You get scores of slaves.
No, I know. It's a tip of a vast iceberg. I was watching ABC News last night with some people who knew about ABC News, and they said, well, when Diane Sawyer has a little question, she has 50 women off to her left who are feeding her this stuff, like a staff of eager underlings. And you don't see any of that. You don't see the 50 people I have over there who are feeding me these lines. It just looks like I'm just sitting here in my study.
So yet people are actually paid to say to think up stupid things?
I do?
Yeah.
I don't pay them much. I mean, I get what I pay.
No, you don't.
I get what I pay for.
Yeah.
But but it's better than thinking of them myself.
No, I know. That takes so much time and energy. Well, listen, you know what today is?
Today is the day after Super Tuesday, which I guess makes it Super Wednesday.
Or, as it was called, the title of a dialogue we posted today, Megan McCardle and Matt Iglesias actually stayed up and taped one after midnight. And
wow.
Yeah, and the title of that one is Stupor Wednesday, because they were a little bit on the tired side by the time
they giddy?
They were not quite as punch drunk as we had hoped. We would hope they'd say something really embarrassing, and I only heard one out and out obscenity.
Should have gotten an all out. What can I say? Well, Matt's a very smart guy,
and Megan's a very smart gal.
Matt's the favorite whippersnapper.
He's your favorite whipper. He's of the leading progressive whippersnappers.
I think he's
the one you don't hate.
Yes, that's a better way to put it. Favorite implies that there's another one that I like. Actually, there is, of course. But anyway.
But we digress.
We digress.
So, Super Tuesday. How would you characterize the results on the Democratic side? What's the headline, Mickey?
I think the headline is Obama obviously, compared with 2 weeks ago, he did very well. Compared with 1 week ago, he did very well. Compared with 2 days ago, when people were talking about him sweeping the entire country, he didn't do that well. I think he gains a minor. Everybody's saying Hillary has a minor lead. I think it's much closer to a draw, and maybe he has a minor lead. If you look at the delegates who have actually been chosen by the people, he's slightly ahead. If you add in the superdelegates, who will go either way depending on which way the delegates chosen by the people go, probably he's behind. But go ahead.
Well, I mentioned this last time, but I think it's really a bad practice that these leading journalistic outlets, when they do their delegate totals, they include the superdelegates as surveyed, as they state their current preference when surveyed, and they just throw them all in together as if they were kind of official results. The front page of the New York Times said, refers to the Associated Press tally, which does include AP's superdelegates. But meanwhile, that's a different tally than you get on CNN. AP was 845 to 765, and CNN was 825 to 732. So, there's just no telling. Whereas, as you pointed out, the actual delegates won is a very different story, A. And B, when you see a delegate total, what you think it represents and what it should represent is the will of the people as expressed in primaries and caucuses, right? Right. And when you start mixing in superdelegates, you're getting something else, which is the power, I guess, of certain machines, in certain political machines in certain states in choosing superdelegates or something. I don't know. But
I don't think so.
It's a shoddy practice.
I think they're just all the DNC hacks and elected officials, and I don't think it's really a machine. This is something suggested to me by one of my emailers, that Howard Dean actually has maybe the kingmaker, because he's the guy who the most is owed to by those superdelegates. He's the guy that built up the DNC. He's the guy that pursued the 50-state strategy, where he builds up all the party organizations, even in areas where Democrats are going to lose. And those guys owe him. So if Howard Dean likes Barack Obama better than Hillary, Hillary better watch out.
Well, he's certainly not historically a Clinton ally, right?
You wouldn't think, but
because they didn't especially like his selection as head of the. Did they?
I
head
forget.
Of the party?
I should know
that. Okay, so anyway, I digress. That's a little grievance that I would certainly expect Barack Obama to be.
Hillary really has to watch out that she's not like Lyndon Johnson, who she's praised, or she's already likened herself.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
And pissing off the Kennedys in the process. But Johnson was running against McCarthy and Kennedy, and Johnson had the control of the party apparatus and seemed to be trying to thwart the will of the people. Or Humphrey, sorry. So,
okay.
But Humphrey had the control, inherited Johnson's party machine. And that's not a memory Democrats like. So I can't believe the superdelegates are going to decide it.
Well, no, I'm just saying it's bad PR for Barack Obama that people are throwing them in the tabulation. They could decide it.
It's kind of good that he's underestimated at this point, I think.
Oh, you think so? Well, it gets us back to the whole expectations game, I guess. But which I want to talk about at some length. But first, since you study this stuff more closely than I do, can I quiz you?
Yes.
About a couple of things like, okay, who does it turn out got the Edwards vote, the lion's share of the Edwards vote? Do we know now?
Tough question. The early polls show that Obama got more of it, but I think in some states Hillary got more of it, so I don't know.
I almost think that if you look at what happened to the opinion polls when Edwards was removed from them, it has to be the case that Obama was getting more.
But I remember seeing something last night that in some states that they thought they'd disproven that. Edwards dropped out all of a sudden, didn't he, Bob? It's almost as if there was some scandal lurking in his past that somebody threatened to reveal. But it's hard to see why it would be one of the campaigns, because, how could they figure out which way his vote was going to go?
Well, we should say, for anybody who hasn't watched Blogging Heads in about a year and a half, that, you're talking about this sexual scandal that you and the National Enquirer insist lurks somewhere. But that there's a love child, that there's an Edwards love child floating around. But
I've been pushing it, and I think it's true. I'm not.
Oh well, that's enough. And by the way, if you have any rumors, any sexual rumors about me, and you just kind of think they're true, do post them on your blog, okay? Because that's the standard of journalism we hope will apply.
Bob, when you run for president, we'll give you all the scrutiny you deserve.
Well, if I run for president, then finally there may be some sex scandals involving me, but
What do you
that's
say,
not going to
Bob?
happen. What?
Your wife is watching. You want to elaborate on this?
Well, she knows I'm not going to run for president. I'm sure that would make her feel very secure.
Okay.
But we digress again.
But anyway, so my working theory was that it was, I don't think it had to do with any of the cover stories they came up with, because they were raising funds. The campaign was all the workers still thought it was going on, and then all of a sudden he dropped out. Anyway, I think there's something funny there that we don't know about.
Yes, you do. Of course, it could be that he was doing what politicians usually do, which is once everyone agrees that there's no chance whatsoever that they can win, they drop out. That's what usually happens. So that's an alternative theory.
Why isn't Mike Huckabee doing that, Bob? He's sort of in the
because in Huckabee's case, this is his ticket to a new kind of renown. He is now becoming, the new Pat Robertson or something, and the movement is still building. Whereas with Edwards, if he wants to be taken seriously as a political figure, his stock was just going to decline among the kind of, cognoscenti the longer he stayed in the race. That's the answer.
Okay.
Now, Romney's may be a slightly interesting question.
He still got 10% of the California vote even dropping out, so didn't do
Edwards
that bad.
did?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what killed Obama.
Well, I think it did hurt him because those were absentee ballots that got voted early, and obviously 20% of them, a lot of them went for Edwards. Mm-hmm. So, and if your theory is correct, then yes, the absentee ballots out here clearly killed Obama. In more ways than one.
Well, I mean, the point you made is right that whether Obama won by the standards of the expectation games depends on when you lock the expectations in. Because there was this dialogue after South Carolina, I think, featuring Noam Scheiber and Brink Lindsay, and Brink said, Obama's dead, right? And that was my feeling at the time, that basically Obama's dead. And Noam had been in touch with the Obama people and said, well, here's the way they're spinning it. It
was after what? After what race?
This was after the South Carolina primary. I'm pretty sure. So he had won that. He had won that, but I think there had been this sobering up period where people looked at the national polls, which were still decidedly in Hillary's favor at that point. And I'm almost sure this was after the South Carolina primary. And Noam said, well, the way they look at it is the Obama people is, look, if he can do a little better than expected, win 6 or 8 or even 10 states on Super Tuesday, and win, not nearly as many delegates as her, but a lot of delegates, Well, okay, what happened was he won 13 of 22 states.
And he won as many delegates, yeah.
What's that? And won as many delegates, okay.
There have been a couple.
Whereas it's true if you catch like the late buzz, the 36 hours earlier buzz that he might take California, blah blah blah, and the question just kind of arises: is there any logic to the expectations game, and if so, kind of what is it? I mean, do you buy that it's a valid frame in which to put things?
Very good question. I used to buy it completely because the theory being, I guess, that most people didn't pay attention to the race. So if a certain obscure candidate did better than expectations, that was a good reason to sort of promote him in the press and let the public take a look at him or her. So the expectations game serves a very useful purpose. When Gary Hart comes in second in Iowa, it was still second, but it was a surprise second. So the press says, "Oh, Gary Hart's coming on," and then Gary Hart wins a few states after that, and almost wins the nomination because he was worth looking at. So it was very good that you saw who sort of had some traction where you didn't expect him to, because it might indicate even more potential than that. But this time it's like up, down, up, down. It's just sort of like the ravings of an alcoholic. And I shared it too. I thought Obama was, dead for, a while when it looked like when everybody was saying, Hillary had the clearer message before she made her illegal driver's license botch. And then
it all comes down to immigration, doesn't it? Everyone but you has forgotten that remark.
No, Bob, that was a clear inflection point in the campaign.
Yes.
And then 8 days ago, which seems like a century, I thought that Obama was in his race box and he couldn't escape. And as you say, he was facing this Super Tuesday. He only had a week to organize. He couldn't possibly match Hillary in all these places. And he's completely escaped from the race box. Nobody runs around thinking, I don't think, that he's the black candidate anymore.
No, I mean, look at the states he won in.
Yeah, he
won in some pretty white states.
He didn't win primaries in too many white states, but he won. He might win New Mexico. He won Missouri, and he won Connecticut. I assume Missouri is a pretty white state. Maybe not.
Well, St. Louis has a big black population. Yeah. And that was what pushed him over the top at the very end. But you're right that it's the whites. Many of the white states were coalition states.
Caucus.
But it was, in a way, it gives you. Well, actually, let me finish up on this question of expectations, because the thing I'm wondering is, it seems to me if there was if there was any validity to expectation. I mean, it seems to me it's kind of clear why we play the expectations game, which is that it's just built into the human motivational structure, right? I mean, if you're designing the optimal animal, as natural selection more or less did, right, and you use this chemical reward system in the brain that makes it feel good after performing well and bad after not performing well, you want to set that relative to what's realistic, right? When I get up in the morning, it's true that it would be good if I became president of the United States that day, and it would be bad if I became homeless, but neither one of those is going to happen. So the machinery has to be set around, right in the zone of what's likely to happen. Like if I say 0 stupid things on a dialogue, that's pretty good. And if I say like 5, that's like average. 6 is worse than average.
Isn't it also that we're built to be sensitive to changes in our environment? Not, if you enter a room and there's the smell of gas or something, eventually after about 5 minutes you adjust to it and you start looking for new smells because
Yes, but I think this is a more.
You're looking for new knowledge.
Yes, but I'm guessing this is a more specific motivational structure. In other words, the difference there is that actually I would say that is different because the smell of lethal gas is an absolute. It's not like if you wake up and smell a little lethal gas, you go, okay so the good news will be if it gets a little better than bad. No, you get out of there. That is an absolute trigger.
Gas was a bad example. Suppose it was like the smell of kimchi, some unpleasant cooking odor. After 5 minutes, you get used to it. You don't smell it anymore. You're looking,
okay.
Your nose is designed to look for new information. The press is designed to look for new information.
Well, yes,
and
but
it's not because it wants the candidates to be motivated. It's because they're looking for the truth, and any sort of change is what moves a market. Because you've adjusted to the previous changes, you want to find out something new.
No, but what I'm suggesting is that I'm arguing two things. First of all, in response to your point, I would claim. We're talking about a more specifically designed motivational mechanism than the kind of general phenomenon you're positing, although this may have parallels in other motivational realms, I grant you, okay? But I'm arguing that this is a mechanism specifically designed to do two things: make you happy or unhappy about your own performance and make you happy or unhappy about your rival's performance. Okay, your performance and your allies' performance, so hence the candidate you're rooting for, and your rivals or enemies' performance, hence the candidate you're opposed to. And I'm saying that is what is playing out here when people react to elections the way they do. And what that says is this is not totally a creation of journalists. People just react this way. Obama supporters who think he's going to get 37% are happy when he gets 40%, even though that's not a majority. And even if there weren't journalists around playing the expectations game, people would still react that way.
I guarantee you, my conservative friends are not happy that Romney got 38% instead of 36% in some states.
Well,
because McCain is still winning. They want to destroy McCain. They don't.
Well, there's
want
certain
to do
outcomes
better than expected against McCain.
It is possible to define an outcome as catastrophic, right? And then it becomes more absolute, and that's the way they feel about McCain. But you know, anyway, I mean, here's my question. So it seems to me that what I've just said should tend to undermine the expectations game, because it's really just this kind of byproduct of our motivational structure that shouldn't overwhelm our assessment of who's really in good shape at the end of Super Tuesday, kind of. And if you could claim that there's a valid logic behind the expectations game, it would be by connecting it to the concept of momentum, by first positing that momentum is real, and then saying, well, the validity about expectations is if you do better than you seem to be doing 3 days ago, that's a sign of momentum, and momentum is real and it carries on, and that's the only validity I can really see paying a lot of attention.
This may have to do with yes, Bob, the filer faster principle. If we process information more quickly now, that would tend to think that when there's something new happens, we adjust more quickly to our expectations to it. So, Obama does well in South Carolina, or Hillary does well in New Hampshire. We adjust within 2 days. She's back to being the front runner after being a disaster, and then so then we're ready for something new, unexpected to happen. Whereas before, it would take a week for us to be ready for something new and unexpected to happen. And the second thing, which I think is clearly true this time, is momentum doesn't last. In other words, because people adjust somehow so quickly to, like, Obama winning South Carolina, I don't think he gets more than a couple of days worth of momentum for that. I don't think it lasts till the next week's primary. I think
in fact, is it possible that, I'm not sure if you quite said this, but is it possible that the filer faster thesis interacts with the expectations game in a way that saps momentum of its validity and in fact leads to the opposite, which is a kind of chaotic fluctuation, which you've kind of seen in this case, right?
Yes, I have said that.
You have said that. Did you really say it, or are you just trying to claim credit for a brilliant insight of mine?
I said it
because we do have a record of this conversation.
Bob, I said it. I said it in the year 2000. I can give you the link. Right. I can send you the link. What?
Hey, I had lunch with Filer himself, by the way.
Were you expressing skepticism that I'd said it in 2000?
I'm expressing skepticism that you said anything brilliant at all in 2000, including this, yes.
Okay, well, I'll send you the link, and you can be the judge.
Okay. As long as I'm the judge, I'm pretty sure I know who's going to win this one.
There's a rare moment of gloating on my part. Or maybe not so rare.
Maybe premature, buddy.
Maybe not so rare. Okay.
Anyway, I did have lunch with the actual creator of the Filer Faster thesis, so only last week.
He's done a dialogue.
He's done a couple.
Yeah.
There you go.
So anyway, so momentum isn't what it used to be. I think the result, the underlying reason is this faster processing of information. Things become old news very quickly. The only reason Obama sustained the momentum was because he immediately followed it with the Kennedy endorsement, and he kept making new news, which is, I guess, what you got to do these days. It's tough running for president. Well, sorry?
It's my approach.
Yeah.
Now here's my question.
Okay.
So you agree it's close to even?
Yes.
Between the two?
Yes.
Wait. One more demographic question. What did we learn about Obama and Hispanics in California?
Well, we learned that Obama lost them by about the same ratio he lost them everywhere else, 69 to 29, I think it was.
And he had tried to take a position on immigration or emphasize a position that was going to stand him in better stead, right?
Yes, he'd emphasized that he supports driver's licenses for illegals, and he had emphasized that he had promised to bring comprehensive immigration reform up in the first year. If you look at some people, they think he promised to pass it in the first year, which I don't think is exactly right. And it didn't really, he improved a little in some states, like Arizona. He didn't really seem to have improved that much in California. It was sort of a bust. And in his speech last night, he didn't even mention Hispanics or immigration. It's sort of fallen away. So okay, that didn't work. Let's drop that. And
California, Arizona, and New Mexico are out of the way. I guess Texas looms ahead.
Right, there's Texas, but I just think they're now looking at Ohio and Pennsylvania and states where maybe babbling about driver's licenses for illegals doesn't do you a whole lot of good.
It seems like it did. Also, didn't he learn last night it didn't do him a huge amount of good the first time around?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
I mean, with the Hispanics, it did. It just yeah. Okay,
right.
Okay.
And the new CW is that somehow it's mistaken to appeal to Latinos only on the basis of immigration. They have other concerns. They care about education intensely and health and economic development and all sorts of good things. And I hope that's right. But it's weird that now they tell us, after telling us for 2 or 3 years, that you are going to lose the Latino vote if you're not right on immigration. You're going to lose it for a generation. Well, it turns out you don't lose it for a generation necessarily, according to this new conventional wisdom, which is, on my blog I try to figure out why all of a sudden we're hearing this. I think it's because they're running against McCain, and the Democrats realize, hey, we don't have immigration. There's no difference between us and him on immigration.
Well, he's going to have to. He's having to talk a little more anti-immigration. Although the virtue, I guess, of him pretty much locking it up now is he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to backpedal a whole lot on that, right? Any more than he already has. I
think. Well, it's weird. If you go to the corner, they think he does. And if you go to the corner, they're like sort of writing the speech that McCain has to give.
Well, that will win their assent. That will convince the bloggers on the corner not to vote for Hillary or not to vote for Obama. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. No. They clearly will. The bloggers on the corner are already half in McCain's camp anyway. And there's a reluctant second half that would be brought in by the speech. The corner isn't Ann Coulter. Ann Coulter is.
So their argument is that
Ann Coulter is so far off to the right that she's come back on the left, Bob.
But I just think almost nobody who's kind of fiercely anti-immigration on the Republican side is going to actually come out and vote for a Democrat against McCain. Maybe the danger is that they'll stay at home and not vote at all.
Right, and he does have to worry about that. Yeah. So I think it is a fine line and a tightrope he has to walk where he doesn't want to give up his he thinks his pro-comprehensive, compassionate stand that will appeal to Latinos. At the same time, he has to placate the right. It seems to me the easy way to do it for me is to say, I'm not going to bring this legislation to the floor in my first 2 years or something. That's the easy thing to say. And then we'll have an election and we'll see what happens. I would say he should say he's not going to bring it up in his first term, but he's so old he might not have a second term, so you can hardly expect him to say that.
No, I wouldn't put it that way if I were him.
Well,
should we segue a little more into the Republican side? There are others that we can get back to Democrats.
I have one point that I haven't that I think will cause you embarrassment, which is everybody's saying that McCain might lock it up while the Democrats are still fighting, and this will be an advantage for McCain because he can attack the Democrats while they're fighting each other. And normally I think that's hooey, but it seems in this case he really can do damage by saying the surge is working, you're against the surge, you're still talking about pulling out of Iraq with all our interpreters as if it was leaving Saigon with the Viet Cong coming in, and it's not nearly that bad, and I proposed a strategy that worked, and I think that's embarrassing for Dems, Bob, and it should be
doubly embarrassing for me. And why exactly should it be especially embarrassing for me?
Well, because even though you were so supportive of the surge, Bob, you were consistently on record as saying the war in Iraq is an irrevocable disaster. There's no possible way.
It has been a disaster, and
no, that's not what you said.
In the best case scenario, it has been a complete disaster.
Right, but McCain is running around saying maybe it's not such a disaster. We could salvage something positive from it, and that's going to cause people like you pain because you're locked into the nothing positive can come of it theory.
Well, I mean, I'm not running for office. I mean, it seems to me that the main, as a political matter. I mean, so you're not arguing with my claim that the war, even in the best case, has been a complete disaster. You're not challenging that?
No, I do challenge that. I've challenged it before.
So you think it's been a net good?
No, I think it's. I think
you think it may yet be the case that it will have been a net good?
It may yet barely be a net good. Yes.
Okay.
The likeliest. The likeliest scenario is that it's a net bad, but you could see.
So the fact, for example, that let me just discard the 7 things I most commonly cite as the reason that this war was a horrible mistake, and focus on one I almost never actually mention. The fact that this, I usually don't stress, it distracted us from Afghanistan, as pretty much everyone agrees. It allowed and by the same token, it allowed the tribal areas in Pakistan to become like Taliban Central, and it energized the insurgencies there in a kind of technological way. Okay, like these IEDs were unknown to the Afghan-Pakistan region, and they came back from the Iraq. So what most people now consider the most dangerous place in the world from America's point of view, which is the Afghanistan-Pakistan expanse, okay, would very likely not be that if it hadn't been for the Iraq War. Certainly there's a good chance, and the chances are overwhelming that things would be better there, okay. If I just focused on that alone, given that Pakistan has nuclear weapons and so on, that would be enough, Mickey. And my argument goes well beyond that.
Wouldn't Pakistan still be in turmoil without the Iraq War, and wouldn't we still be screwing up the campaign against the Taliban because we insist on eradicating poppy crops, which are the main source of income?
Well, the standard thinking is that getting distracted from that region, it drained resources from it, ranging from intelligence resources that were monitoring Pakistan to military resources that were active in Afghanistan. Standard thinking in the foreign policy establishment is that we really hurt ourselves there.
Yeah, no.
Maybe you're right. You have a new theory. How does it go?
The theory is that if we wind up with 2 out of 3, or maybe 3 out of 3 stable regions in Iraq, whether or not they're wildly democratic, where the Bob Wright logic of history, which tends to bring people together and tends toward democracy and capitalism, can take hold, whereas and maybe spread throughout the region in the long run.
Whereas before,
that's in the middle of the Islamic world. In the long run, that'll be a really good thing.
Man, you are so nuts. And you're just going to totally, first of all, compared to what that was so threatening to American interests about what was going on in Iraq at the time?
Well, nothing so much with Saddam, but we had a bunch of oligarchies in the region, in Egypt, Saudi Arabia, with a large cohort of young men who didn't have jobs because they weren't successful economies.
And you're seeing that changing as a result of...
And they were ready recruits for Al-Qaeda.
And you're seeing that as changing as a result of the Iraq War, apparently.
Well, in this best-case scenario, yes. I wouldn't put money on it.
Even in the best-case scenario you just outlined, the monarchy's still in place in Saudi Arabia. So you got to take your best-case scenario, which ignores all kinds of, tensions in Kurdistan and so on. But you got to take your best-case scenario and then posit some sort of, best-case contagion.
Yeah.
And
you have to do that. But
and then maybe 3 more links in the argument, and would it make up for all the trouble and all the terrorist recruiting that has been abetted by this war?
If Iraq becomes,
I actually still doubt it, but
if Iraq becomes a prosperous democracy, don't you think other people in other countries are going to say, "I want some of that"?
I think there are all kinds of forces that we can harness naturally that will move these states in that direction without creating all the havoc we created. There are much easier ways to do that.
I'm making a Bob Wright argument. I'm saying
no, you're not. No,
yes,
you're not.
I am. I'm saying that people want to be rich and successful and prosperous, and that trumps ideology. So I'm making the Bob Wright Marxist argument that they will throw this radical Islam overboard if they can have a better life without radical Islam. Second, I'm making the argument that there is a logic of history. As long as you have stability, things will move basically in the positive direction. Those are two Bob Wright-ish aspects to my argument, which, bizarrely, Bob Wright himself is rejecting.
You really think it's bizarre? Like this really seems like a plausible scenario you're laying out to you.
No, I just think it's a possible scenario, and you're saying in the best case
possible
scenario it's a
in the
disaster,
sense,
and I'm saying no, I can see this best case scenario where it's not a disaster.
Possible in the sense that you can.
And McCain will make some headway saying that. I agree that.
Well, okay. Well, none of what you said is relevant to the McCain scenario. I mean, the politics of it reside at a much cruder level. Than the argument we're having.
What other argument does he have? He's supposed to be beating up on the Democrats for 3 months before the
No, look, the
that's
Democrats
what he's going to be
made
saying. He's going to be running around the country saying, we're winning in Iraq, don't give up, don't snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. And I'm saying, judging from what I saw in the debate, he'll get some traction saying that.
Yeah, but it won't even get beyond that sentence. I mean, for political purposes, it doesn't even get to... And in 2 years, maybe Iraq will be a stable 3-state federation whose values, infect Saudi Arabia. It won't get to that. I mean, you're right that the Democrats are vulnerable because they made a big political mistake, which, as you know, I was not in favor of at the time, which is that they came out saying the surge won't work, we got to get out. And as you and I agreed at the time, they had made the political mistake of changing the subject from was the war a success, and any reasonable person, and I don't mean this offensively, but any reasonable person would say, yes, it obviously is still a massive failure. They changed the subject to, will the surge be a success? And it was really unclear, whether it would turn out to be the case that you could plausibly argue that the surge is a success. Now he can plausibly argue that. That's why the Democrats are in political trouble. It doesn't have anything to do with the actual merits of the war. I mean, it just, you can clearly make an at least plausible sounding argument that the surge is leading, to a better case situation, and you can define that better case as victory, and extremely naive people will accept that definition of victory, and you apparently are inclined to join them, and that's fine. But for political purposes, you're right. He's in good shape. On that issue, and a difference between, both Hillary and Obama, it seems to me, are somewhat vulnerable on that score, and the difference between them is Obama can at least say, I oppose the war itself.
I agree with everything you said except the part where you called me naive. But
didn't I do it didn't I do it in this subtle way that...
No, it wasn't subtle. I have one more thing to say about Obama.
Yeah.
Or do you want to keep talking about this?
I want to think of some more ways to insult you, if it's okay.
Okay, well, you do that. I'll talk about Obama in the meantime. It seems to me, I'm just worried that he's like way too left. That he's, he is a guy who has sort of standard law school radical left professor views, and he successfully hid them under this. I'm going to reach across the aisle for Republican, and business support, or to at least talk to them and have them at the table, which apparently he's done. But still, at the end of the day, he's for driver's licenses for illegals. He's for a card check to help unions organize. He's
is Hillary against card check?
Sorry?
Is Hillary against card check?
No, she's for card check, but she's not posing as the candidate who's going to, the Gary Hart candidate. Obama looks like Gary Hart, but he's Walter Mondale in black Gary Hart clothing. He's name one Gary Hartish, conservative position he's taken. He said, well, maybe I'm for merit pay. Well, big whoop.
It's an interesting. I guess I don't know that much about his policy positions. I assume people would say that on health care he's a little to the right of Hillary.
But
the
he's a little to the right. He's a little to the right in the way that unions like, because unions don't like the individual mandate either for some reason.
Okay.
I guess their members feel it's an imposition of an extra cost.
But you're right, and this gets into why the netroots, have always been kind of ambivalent about him, is that, I think what they don't like, it's not, maybe this resolves the mystery. It's not that he's not far enough left. It's that in opposing bitter partisanship, he's opposing the identity of the Netroots.
Yeah.
So that's it. You're saying it's not really on the policy spectrum that they have issues with.
I'm saying if you were a very, very smart, very left-wing politician, and you wanted to somehow seize political power in the United States, you would do exactly what Barack Obama is doing, without sacrificing any of your police. And I would like to see something where he indicates that he is not that person. But,
well, of course you would. You want him to. You want him to be the DLC guy because you're a DLC guy.
I would just take one. I just want one thing that implies.
And it would be in the realm of immigration, wouldn't it?
Well,
Mickey?
that would help. That would be fine. Or it could be card check, or it could be education, or it could be foreign policy. He could have done what you just recommended. He could say, "I was against the war, but let's give the surge a chance." That would have been a really big one, maybe too risky, given that it's a Democratic primary.
Well, given that
he's one.
But it's not a smart thing to say during the primaries.
Well, one of them is a smart thing to say during the primaries.
Nah,
10
maybe.
of them isn't. I mean, he hasn't won. If he'd done one of these things, maybe he would have won, Take my advice for a change.
If he had been like you, I'm sure he would already be president. If he had done everything you say.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, that was my rap on Obama. Sorry.
Okay. And do we need to dwell? I mean, we agree that the Republican thing is essentially locked up, right? And it's not the numbers McCain has. It's just that if either Huckabee or Romney gets out of the race, not nearly all of their voters go to the other non-McCain alternative, right? It's just too many of their voters would go to McCain if it became a two-person race.
Yeah, well, especially Huckabee's. And I mean, basically, Romney isn't getting the job done. The conservatives have no horse that can actually beat McCain. That's their problem. I mean, Tony Blankley had a very good column where he took, George Allen was supposed to be that guy. Well, it seems to be George Allen wasn't all that bright, but he's not there. And Jeb Bush could be that person, and he's a Bush, so he can't run. It's hard. Usually there's a phase of buyer's remorse where, a guy like McCain locks up the nomination, and then everybody in the party goes, "Oh my God, do we really want to nominate this guy?" And then somebody comes out from left field, like Jerry Brown came out to challenge, Jimmy Carter, and wins a couple of primaries, but then ultimately loses. You can't even think of who that person would be in the Republican Party. At least I can't. And that's the problem. It's there's no Colin Powell figure who everybody can implore to step in from the sidelines. Absent that, McCain's going to win. And the question,
don't you think it's too late anyway for anybody to step in? I mean, it would have to be but that raises a. I mean, first of all, do you?
It depends on filing deadlines. I assume it is, but it's not too late to do McCain so much damage that people reconsider. If there were somebody who who was available, I guess McCain will have eventually locked up enough delegates so that he would get the nomination, even if it was clear he was a loser. But anyway, it did happen with Jerry Brown. So
now, in the case of a brokered convention, I mean, if you have a true deadlock at a convention, then it's possible for somebody totally new to be drafted, right, or something.
Correct.
So in that sense, it's looking like the Al Gore scenario is not totally dead because the Democratic convention could wind up deadlocked, right?
You could revive that, but I think probably either Barack and Hillary would both rather run as vice president than have Al Gore at the top of the ticket. So that seems unlikely.
Well, unless they can agree on which one should be vice president, that's not enough.
Run as vice president. Certainly,
well, yeah, but I think Obama would probably. Obama would rather probably run as vice president to Gore than to Hillary at the end of this, and who knows?
I don't think Gore does not poll well, Bob.
Okay, never mind.
But feel free to flog this dead horse.
Okay.
The question is, does McCain take the whole Republican Party with him and make it more moderate? And I don't quite see that, but
I don't see that. Which raises a question of whether Huckabee runs as a third-party candidate.
Huckabee? He's not going to run as a third-party candidate.
Why not? Why not?
He's not. A, he's not that far to the right. B, he has a secret love pact with McCain.
He does?
Yeah, that's obvious. He's helped McCain by running away. I mean, Romney got the number 2 number of votes, but he didn't win hardly anything because Huckabee, caught him in a pincer's movement in the South. So the fact that Huckabee's a huge favorite of McCain and is staying in the race is a huge favorite of McCain. That's what guarantees McCain's victory.
But it seems like you can only conclude that it's a favor. He's doing it as a favor to McCain if it weren't benefiting him, which it manifestly is. It is helping his career. It is raising Huckabee's profile. How does it help his career to then do this and become a player and then all of a sudden break away and run as a third party? That makes no sense at all. Plus, no. There are two. No, wait. There are two separate things. You're arguing that we can tell that already Huckabee and McCain are in bed together. Huckabee's doing this for McCain. That's your argument, and I'm saying you cannot conclude that at all based on what's happened so far.
Who knows what lurks in the hearts of men? But in West Virginia, Huckabee and McCain cut a deal to screw Romney. Huckabee's people run around saying, we have only nice things to say about McCain. McCain hasn't attacked us. We love John McCain. McCain says the same thing about Huckabee. It sure looks like they're smooching in public, Bob, and they both hate Romney. That's what's happening now. Maybe maybe people fall in love and are married for 50 years secretly because it's in their self-interest, but it sure looks like they're in love from the outside. So at some point it becomes
because they cut a deal. Because you think they cut a deal in one state.
No, they've been working hand in glove, not at cross purposes, but they have
No, I think you're probably right that Huckabee doesn't
state after state.
I think you're probably right that Huckabee doesn't want to become known as the person who doomed the Republicans in November.
He wouldn't be the guy to do it anyway. He's too liberal for the conservatives. You know that.
Well, look, who said his coalition was going to be uniformly conservative? I mean, it's almost in the nature of third. Look at Ross Perot. It's almost in the nature of third party candidates to be ideologically ambiguous by the standards of the current moment, and that's why.
That's interesting. That's why he would try to rip off blue collar Democrats too.
Yeah, I mean that's why they tend to show up at moments when the system is ripe for realignment.
It would be very bizarre if we went through this race and did not have a powerful third party candidate.
Right, because the alignment is too weird.
Where both parties are fragmenting and yet we don't have a third party.
I guess the problem with it is, and you know more than I do, but I gather that Huckabee is not truly in his heart dyed-in-the-wool anti-immigration, right? And you would expect a third-party candidate at this point to harness the if you'll pardon the expression, nativist strand in...
I don't pardon the expression.
Okay, sorry. I didn't... No offense, man.
But that's okay. Mark Murphy called Tom Credo the anti-immigrant Bund, which I took.
What does the word Bund mean?
Well, it means it's a German word for society, but to most people it means the German-American Bund, which was Hitler's fifth column in the United States.
Well, see, I could have said that. That would have been worse. You should be grateful for nativists.
But
right. I didn't know what it meant, so I couldn't have said it.
But
okay. Anyway, so McCain's going to win. I have one last question about the campaign, which is what. Okay, so it's going to be this serious battle between Barack and Hillary, and this is fascinating. Admit, I mean, first of all, you have the thing going down probably very close to the convention itself. Secondly, it's a black man and a woman. That's almost inspiring.
I agree.
And now the question is, what meme does each of them have to fear the most? What idea that could get out there in the zeitgeist, or that's already out there and could gain momentum, could be most harmful to Hillary and to Obama, respectively?
For Obama, I would think it's this Strelnikov meme that he's really a left guy who's posing in benign, moderate clothing. Am I wrong? And
I think for the purposes of the primary, I don't see how it really kills him to be thought of somebody who's on the left side of the spectrum. Could hurt him in the general, but I'm talking about the primary.
Well, but it also gets to the where's the beef. In other words, you say you're so...
I think that's the meme. That's the meme that he has to address immediately. Is it all sounds nice, but when you look at it closely, It's vague generalities, and we've now all heard the speech about unity about as many times as we need to.
The speech last night really I had exactly that reaction. Okay, let's get to this.
A lot of people are. I mean, one thing, more and more people I'm hearing are even Obama fans saying, acknowledging that, yes, we are all, that a lot of his fans are projecting their hopes on him, and he's a little bit of a blank slate. And I think that is the thing he has to fear. And I'm not, especially in light of Hillary's manifest mastery of policy, and I'm not saying he has to become a master of policy and start sounding nerdy, but I think he needs at least some new rhetorical themes, some new words, some new forms of inspiration. I think he's got to chart some new territory rhetorically that may or may not involve new policy substance, but he can't. If he stops and keeps giving the exact same speech, I do think he's probably dead.
Well, and my fear is that he lacks the imagination to do that. I mean, he's clearly really competent politically. He clearly really can cut deals with people on the right. He's skillful enough to bring everybody in the tent. He's done it in Illinois. That's what the Charlie Peters article shows. But does he have the? Can he say, okay, let's end welfare as we know it? Does he have that? The imagination to do that, and do something unexpected. Go to China, and I don't know.
I don't either.
I think his China thing is, if he wins the nomination in the general election, he says, I think we can phase out race-based affirmative action and substitute class-based affirmative action, and that would be
but that's post-election. I mean, in terms of
huge winner.
I think if he doesn't think of something new, then not that. Before the convention, I think he's dead. Probably. Although, I think there is a meme that Hillary has to worry about that's already out there.
Which is,
what that is?
She's an oppressively meddling and regulating, allegedly benign nanny figure.
Not what I had in mind.
I mean, when Hillary says, there's so much more we can do for each other, doesn't that send chills down your spine? I mean, Hillary saying there's a lot we can do for each other means she wants the government to come in and tell you what to do.
I get goosebumps, Mickey.
Okay, well, what's your meme?
It's out there, but it's electability. And I think it's in a way more potent after Super Tuesday because one thing that's clear, it's already out there that Hillary gets the Republicans to the polls more than Obama does. That's the thinking. It's probably true. I think the things that are thrown into the equation by Super Tuesday are it's now clear that on the Democratic side, Obama can probably get the black vote to the polls in a way that Hillary can't, especially after South Carolina, right?
No, I think Hillary gets the black vote, too.
She gets it, but who gets most blacks to the polls? I'm arguing that either any Democrat gets most of the blacks who show up at the polls. My argument is that Obama has shown that he can get them to the polls in a way that Hillary will not, especially after the atmospherics surrounding the South Carolina primary.
I just don't know. Black voters are pretty damn reliable Democratic voters, and they've turned out for worse candidates than Hillary. So
yeah, but didn't Obama get higher? Didn't we see higher turnout rates in places like Georgia and South Carolina than we historically did in Democratic primaries? I don't know for sure.
No, I'm sure that's right, but
well, okay, they didn't come for Hillary.
Okay, but okay, that's.
And so the question is, can she make a countervailing claim about Hispanics that they would come? I mean, again, they will probably vote for the Democrat by and large, but can she make a claim that she will get them to the polls in a way that Obama doesn't? I'm not so sure.
I don't think so. But,
right. So I think.
And I think. Go ahead.
So I think the electability meme will only gain momentum, and I think, and some people I've heard think that having it narrowed down to a single Republican candidate, John McCain, being able to visualize who they're going up against also helps Obama. I'm not quite so sure, but I kind of think so. I kind of think if you imagine McCain versus Hillary in a debate, or McCain versus Obama, just in terms of the general thematic vibes, and the aura and the charisma and everything.
No, I sort of buy that, and I buy the Hillary has a lot of baggage and the dynasty factor. Nobody wants that, so that Obama sort of casts that aside. What I don't buy is his argument that because I was against the war, somehow I'm better against McCain than somebody who was for the war but against its prosecution, but is now has a wishy-washy position.
But it does seem to me, if McCain can say to the Democratic candidate, you said the surge wouldn't work, I said it would, it's working, who do you trust? You're better off being able to say, look, I said this war was going to be a mess, you didn't say that, and the war is a mess. And Hillary can't say that.
I guess I would like to be able to say that Hillary had said, let's give the surge a try, but I think the primaries forced her to piss on the surge in a way that's not going to do her, that doesn't reflect her actual beliefs. I think she probably was a proponent of the surge, but she couldn't possibly do that and still stay viable. So I guess you're right. It would be better if she could, if she could say that, she'd be better than Obama on that exchange, but she can't.
Now, there's a possibly relevant comment. I guess we're running late, so mind if I segue into comments? This is from, where is this possibly relevant? It's from Wonderment, the commenter known as Wonderment. At the risk of plagiarizing Toni Morrison, he writes that Obama may be the first female president. Listen to this thesis. The election is more about male power than about the literal gender of the candidates. Hillary represents the old patriarchal machine, white male centrist, inherited through the male dynastic presidency and plutocratic. Obama, on the other hand, is unconnected, outside the patriarchal networks, relatively poor and rooted in the sectors of society where women are most marginalized. The Obama machine is less machista, I guess a form of the word machismo, and more militaristic than the Clinton machine. Does that make sense to you?
More militaristic or less militaristic?
Well, the Obama machine is less viciously militaristic, is what he's saying. The political machine acts less military.
Right. I do think Obama has a man problem, even though he's winning among men, and as he has not really exercised, shown his masculine advantage over Hillary. I guess because he feels his main thing is to appeal to women, although I think women like a masculine leader. So I think he has to show a little more macho, actually, yes.
I think he's a pretty good hoops player, I'm told, but maybe hard to showcase that.
Anything like that, or, taking, a couple of points in the debate, sometimes he takes charge and, arranges peace, so you can't do that anymore, but enough with the feminine touchy-feely stuff. At some point he's got to put her down forcefully.
And do you think if he has to choose between being shot playing hoops and being videotaped windsurfing in Nantucket, which would you go with?
That would be fun.
I'm going with hoops.
That would be very funny if he went windsurfing just as a gag. That would be hilarious. It would sort of explode the whole thing.
Anyway, that's a little relevant to the military. I mean, is it the case that Hillary Clinton is so, in a certain sense, macho and associated with a macho political machine and the whole experience of the Clinton, presidency, that she comes off as trustworthy on national security in a way that Obama doesn't? I think that's a threat he may face.
That's a threat he may face. On the other hand, every time she wants to win an election, she cries the day before. So.
Mm-hmm. I didn't see the last crying. I heard about it. She did another crying thing?
Yeah, she welled up, and she said, I told myself I wasn't going to tear up, but here I am again. God.
Now, it's hard to believe that was intentional, because it seems like such a mistake to try to go to that well again. But I didn't see it.
I agree, but I think now it's become a superstition. It's like, untying your left shoe before the election. She's got to cry or she won't win.
Yeah, we'll see. Before every primary. That would be funny, too. If you had a crying YouTube before every primary.
Or she could announce, I will crying opportunity.
Now the commenter known as Ottorino, Ottorino, has a take on Obama's "you're likable enough" remark, very like yours, which is he thought it was kind of half a joke, he or she. But I mainly bring him up to wonder if he or she is related to the commenter formerly known as Otto. Do you think? Have we been around long enough for this to be the grandchild of Otto? Do you think Ottorino?
I don't know, but
probably not.
I do think it was a failed joke. If he'd smiled, it would have been fine. He didn't smile.
It was like he suffered from a problem I sometimes encounter.
Well, he was trying to be deadpan, I think.
Right.
And he was also a little pissed off, and those sort of merged together.
Right. It's like when I called you naive, some people probably thought I was serious because I didn't smile. I forgot to smile.
Oh, you're just trying to take that back, Bob. That's pathetic. Stand by your guns. You didn't call me a Nazi. It could have been worse. Call me a nativist.
Did I forget to call you a Nazi?
You called me a naive nativist.
Oh.
Luckily, I don't remember that sort of thing. And you didn't invite me to your party. That's 3, Bob. 3 is a trend, now that I think of it.
3 is case closed from a journalist's point of view. That's the universal data set is 3 anecdotes.
It's suddenly become clear you hate me. Why do you hate me? Jeez. The whole paradigm is shifting.
Are you doing a reverse Sally Field here?
Yeah,
that would be kind of embarrassing. Why don't you try to get a grip here, okay?
My whole paradigm has shifted. I'm now in a hostile posture.
The commenter Razib says of Rachel Sklar. Did you even know Rachel Sklar was on our site, Mickey?
No. Great.
Oh God, you are so. And you ask, why don't I invite you to a Blogging Heads party, Mickey? Because it was for people who watch Blogging Heads.
I even read her site. I guess I stopped. I guess in the election fuss, I didn't go for a few days. Or maybe she didn't post a lot because she was so busy doing Blogging Heads. Anyway, so what about it?
Anyway.
Wait, are you doing some little visual trick here?
No, I'm just a little crestfallen. Okay, do you mind if I take a few moments to kind of gather my self-esteem after once again discovering that you never look at my site? Is that okay?
Well, Bob, you could have taken my advice and had the site been Bob and Mickey all the time, but oh no. You had to go and invite the whole damn world into the site.
I did. Synergy, man.
Which is actually proving to be a pretty good idea, but...
It's all about synergy. But there will always be a place for you here, Mickey, just not at the parties, okay?
Yeah.
Commenter Razib.
Disaffected co-founder. That's what I am.
You are a co-founder.
Anyway.
That will be reflected in print somewhere on the website.
Razib, go ahead.
Razib says of Rachel Sklar's performance that she says words that end in out funny, he says. Or she says. But we have an explanation for that, don't we, Mickey?
She's Canadian.
She's Canadian.
Jeez.
Give the woman a break.
She probably says garburator, too.
And then Pacivorus, the well-known commenter Pacivorus, basically just agrees with you on illegal immigration, that is not sheer nativism. There are economic issues. But he has more of a database than most people because he has spent time actually as a carpenter, as a handyman, in precisely the kind of trade that would face economic competition from... It's
very weird. The meme that illegal immigration wasn't a good issue, doesn't cut it, not enough people are upset about it, comprehensive reform is popular, is totally ascendant now because of McCain's victory and the inability of the right to stop him. And I just think that's, that we've been through this before. That meme is in for a rough time when somebody actually tries to put something through Congress and a whole lot of Democrats get queasy. That's, in fact, why I, sort of supported Hillary, because I think she's very sensitive to that queasiness, and she's not going to.
So you think she wouldn't try to cram legislation through?
I actually don't think either of them would, but she's much less likely to. Yes.
So probably none of them would.
Well, the only 2 of them. McCain will.
Well, I mean, McCain or Obama or Clinton.
I think McCain will. What else has he got to do? He has no domestic. What's his domestic policy other than that? I mean,
honor, courage, and honor.
Yeah, so and he's a stubborn cuss, and this is his only 4 years, and this is his big thing, and of course he's going to push it. Why shouldn't he?
Maybe because he's not nuts and doesn't want to fragment the Republican Party any more than it's already fragmented, but we'll see.
Well, if he needs crucial support for the war, that might happen. But it is hard to think of what McCain's actually going to do in office for 4 years, other than prosecute the war.
Traditional conservatism holds that you're not supposed to do a whole lot.
No, but usually there's some
slowly
agenda.
Dismantle what?
Usually they come up with some bogus agenda like, compassionate conservatism, faith-based, and or they come up with yet another tax cut, or there's some big bogus domestic concern that they come up with to fill that void, and McCain doesn't even try really.
It's a good question. So we shouldn't vote for him because it'll be boring.
No, but anyway.
But his press conferences will be lively.
No, I mean, even if it's the right thing to do, it's just hard to see how he pulls off doing nothing, given the insatiable media demand for something new.
He'll do a lot of quips, and every once in a while one of them will, start World War III or something, and that'll keep people engaged.
Yeah, I think he has to do more wars just to make some news.
I think he may well, whether intentionally or not. Finally, can I close on a serious commenter note?
Okay.
Plea for commenter civility toward blogging heads. Actually, no, it's not. It's like you're free to be really mean to them if you want, but I would say two things. One is, bear in mind, as you may not, most of the blogging heads actually read the comments, so anything nasty you say is like saying it to a person's face. And if you're the type who says really nasty things to people's faces, then I guess go ahead. But don't think you're in some kind of separate room. I don't mean about me and you. I mean, I certainly encourage them to be mean to you, and I accept they're being mean to me. I mean, guess. And the other thing I would say is there actually now is a recent case in which a highly sought-after female potential blogging head, somebody you have mentioned, Mickey, you have recommended, she's very smart, would have been great for the site, agreed to do it, and then read how one of the blogging heads went and read the comments directed toward one of the blogging heads and decided against it. So we actually lost her. So
aren't our comments way more civil than other sites?
Well, they are, but there's a bit of a difference, which is yes, it's a great comment section. As you know, I take tremendous pride in the comment section, both the level of discourse in terms of how cerebral it is, how well informed it is, and the degree of civility, especially given that it's actually, trans-ideological, bipartisan. It's amazing. It's amazing. But, and I'm not talking about not criticizing the ideas of the blogging heads. I'm just talking about gratuitous remarks. I mean, one thing that's different is it's a video site. So you can say nasty things about the appearance of people. In fact, on a separate note, I was just having coffee with one about whom this was said, and clearly it had stuck with her. She had remembered it, wasn't necessary. But so it is a little different from the average blog in the sense that there are guests who come on the site. It's not their site, it's not their blog, but they come, they are guests. And because it's on video, somehow people can say pretty energetically mean things about them, even if they're not about their appearance per se. So anyway,
I thought you had somebody who policed the comments. Not that I'm for that, but
but we try not to do much at all in the way of deletion of comments.
Yeah,
I mean, we don't want to resort to that. But it's a shame when somebody that I think almost all commenters would have thought, oh, this is a great guest, I'm glad she's on the site, doesn't want to come on because of. So that is a cost that is paid for a certain kind of gratuitously mean comment. I will tell you after the show who this is, and you'll be really bummed that she's not going to be on.
This is a plea. It's Carla Bruni.
Who's Carla Bruni?
The new First Lady of France.
You're right. It was her. Yes.
No, but if you're a blogger, you got a pretty thick skin. So maybe this person wasn't a blogger and hadn't thickened her skin.
This person is not primarily a blogger.
Because I just think give her 3 months and her skin will thicken.
No, we may. But it would be almost unfair not to inform the commenters of the consequences of some kinds of comments, and there's no other way they would have known that this happened in one case.
Plea for civility.
And I'm not, again, I'm not like, this is to avoid. I mean, I'm not. Well, never mind. I'm not asking anyone to be easy on the criticism of ideas. Certainly, especially bad ideas.
Okay, just have any men been upset about comments on the way they look, or men just don't care?
It isn't. I'm not just talking about the way they look. I'm saying, this person's evil. This, just kind of, this person is beneath contempt, and
beneath contempt. What's
this
wrong with that?
person is stupid. What?
Stupid beneath contempt. That's the stock and trade of commenters.
Well, okay, fine. Like I said, I'm not going to delete them. I'm just, it's a transparent website, so I'm giving people information about the consequences their comments sometimes have. And if you're asking, do men get upset? Absolutely. I have testimony from a number that it hurts a little, including me. It does hurt, but I'm not. That's life. Life's hard. I'm just. Never mind. I won't say anything else. The main thing is to remind people that something I think they actually forget, that the people on blogging usually read the comments. So it's like talking to them. And then now talk to people as you talk to people.
Good point. That's a good way to put it. But if you want to ban stupid, you have a Sisyphean task ahead of you.
Mickey, did I say ban?
If you want to shame people so they will voluntarily not use words like stupid, you have a Sisyphean task.
You, above all, should not be confusing, hortatory.
No, I understand, but people you're never going to exhort people to stop using stupid either. You can exhort people to stop saying,
no, it isn't the word stupid. It certainly isn't the word stupid, which I think can be deployed in just a standard conversational manner. I should, what I should have done is come armed with examples, so it would be clearer.
See, most comments like that are self-discrediting, so it doesn't. They don't hurt.
Well,
but okay.
In theory, you're right. Of course, you're a longtime blogger, and you have fairly thick skin to begin with.
No, I didn't.
And it's a good thing.
No, I didn't.
You don't?
I didn't at the beginning. Now it's incredibly thick.
Okay, well, yeah. Well, it took 8 years of blogging to give you,
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. Maybe I shouldn't have said any of that.
No.
But we don't edit, so it has been said.
It was valuable.
It's nice of you to say that.
But
and I'm sorry if I suggested earlier that you were naive, Mickey, because I encourage civility in all discourse.
It's too late, Bob.
Okay.
Nice try. I'll expect a fruit basket in the morning.
Well, I think we have some food left over from that party you weren't invited to. Maybe we'll FedEx you a little.
And I look forward to seeing this photograph of the party that I wasn't invited.
Oh, that's right. We will we will post the photo and link to it. Excellent idea.
Okay.
All right. This was fun. It was good.
We actually covered all the points that I wanted to cover in our completely incoherent fashion. So good. Well,
good. And we covered the fact that we covered the points too.
Absolutely.
That's good. Which we just did.
Yeah. There you go.
You think it's about time to sign off?
Yeah.
Okay.
See ya.
See you around.